April 1945. Northern Germany is collapsing. Staff Sergeant Daniel Mercer of the U.S. 8th Air Force stands on the cracked concrete of a captured Luftwaffe airfield near Celle. The wind carries the smell of burned fuel and wet earth. Smoke hangs low across the horizon where columns of German troops are retreating west, desperate to surrender to the Americans instead of the Soviets closing in from the east. Mercer adjusts the collar of his olive drab AT jacket. He hasn't flown since his B-17 was shot down over Bremen in January. 3 months as a prisoner in Stalag Luft I, 3 months of thin soup, Red Cross parcels, and watching men lose weight and hope. He still feels the cold Baltic wind in his bones. Now he's free, but freedom feels unfinished. Behind him, a row of captured German trucks rattles to life. Armed MPs stand guard over a group of German prisoners, mostly women. They wear field gray tunics. Luftwaffe auxiliaries, Nachrichtenfelfen, signal corps, some barely older than 18. Their caps sit stiff on pale faces drained of sleep. One of them stares at Mercer. Her name, he will soon learn, is Anna Weiss. She doesn't look like the enemy. She looks terrified. A C-47 Skytrain from the U.S. 9th Air Force circles overhead, preparing to land. The last scheduled evacuation flight for displaced Allied posts from this sector. After tonight, the airfield will be turned over to advancing ground forces. Chaos is spreading. Soviet armor is less than a week away. Mercer is on the manifest. So are 23 liberated American airmen. The German women are not. A British captain argues with a U.S. major near the control tower. Their voices cut through the wind. They were part of the Luftwaffe apparatus. They're auxiliaries, not combatants. They wore the uniform. Mercer watches Anna glance toward the east, toward the unseen front. Even at this distance, he sees her swallow hard. He remembers the rumors from other camps. Stories of what happens when front lines collapse too fast. Stories no one wants to confirm. A corporal nudges Mercer. "You're lucky, Sarge. Last flight out of Nazi Europe." Mercer doesn't answer. The C-47 touches down hard, tires screeching against wet concrete. Twin Pratt and Whitney engines roar as it taxis closer. Its olive drab fuselage is scarred with flak patches. The white invasion stripes are faded but visible. The pilot leans out of the cockpit window, scanning the field. The loadmaster begins shouting instructions. 23 American airmen form a line. The German women stand under guard. Anna's eyes never leave the aircraft. Mercer feels something tighten in his chest. He knows what it is. It's the same feeling he had over Bremen when his tail gunner screamed that a Messerschmitt was closing in. A decision is coming, and once that aircraft lifts off, there will be no second chance. The engines throttle up again, impatient. Anna lowers her gaze as if bracing for a sentence not yet spoken. The wind cuts across the airfield as Mercer walks toward the British captain. Boots crunch on broken glass and gravel. The control tower windows are shattered, its swastika banner torn down and trampled into the mud. War ends not with ceremony, but with debris. "Captain," Mercer says, voice steady. The British officer turns. He's exhausted, uniform creased, eyes rimmed red. "This area is restricted, Sergeant." Mercer nods once. "Those women, what's happening to them?" The captain exhales through his nose. "Processing. Interrogation. Transfer east, most likely." East. The word hangs there like a threat. Mercer glances at the group. 2 MPs stand watch, one carbine slung low. The German auxiliaries stand in a tight cluster. No insignia of rank beyond simple shoulder taps. No weapons, just canvas bread bags and fatigue. One of the women begins to cry silently. Another grips her sleeve. Anna Weiss remains still. "She worked signals," Mercer says quietly. "I saw her in the camp once, passing message forms." "That's it." The captain studies him. "You're recommending clemency for the enemy." "I'm recommending common sense." The C-47's engines idle louder now, prop wash, whipping coats and skirts. The loadmaster checks his clipboard. Time is thin. A U.S. major joins them. "Sergeant Mercer, you're due to board." Mercer doesn't move. "Sir, these women are non-combatants. If they're left here and the lines shift." The major's jaw tightens. "This is not your decision." "No, sir," Mercer says, "but it's happening on American ground now. Technically, the field is under Allied control. Technically." A truck backfires in the distance. Everyone flinches. From the eastern horizon, a low rumble echoes faintly. Artillery. Not close, but not far enough. The British captain rubs his temple. "We don't have transport capacity." Mercer looks toward the aircraft. The C-47 can carry 28 passengers comfortably, 30 if tight. There are 23 American airmen, and 12 German women. 5 seats, Mercer says. Just the youngest, the ones under 20. The major shakes his head. This is a liberation flight, not a refugee service. Mercer lowers his voice. Sir, we wore the same uniform 3 months ago, just on opposite sides of a fence. Silence. The engines rev slightly as the pilot tests throttle response. Time is gone. The British captain glances at the women again. He sees what Mercer sees now, not soldiers, but something else. Something already defeated. How old are you, Sergeant? He asks. 27. And you believe mercy wins wars? Mercer meets his eyes. No, sir, but it might end one properly. The captain looks toward the major. A long, wordless exchange. Finally, the major mutters, 5, no more, if the weight allows it. Mercer doesn't smile. He turns toward the prisoners. Anna looks up as he approaches, confusion etched across her face. He stops a few feet away. You speak English? He asks. She hesitates, then nods once. The selection happens fast. Too fast. Anna steps forward first. Her boots sink slightly into the wet soil beside the cracked runway. Mercer gestures to 4 others, to trembling girls who cannot be more than 17. One taller woman with sharp cheekbones, and another clutching a folded photograph to her chest. The remaining 7 women watch in silence. No shouting, no protest, just hollow eyes. One of them whispers something in German. Mercer doesn't understand the words, but he knows the tone. It sounds like goodbye. The British MP unlocks the temporary holding cordon. The 5 chosen women step out cautiously, as if crossing an invisible border that might snap shut behind them. Anna pauses. She looks back at the others. For a moment Mercer thinks she will refuse. Instead, she leans in and presses her forehead briefly to the crying girl she leaves behind. A silent exchange. Then she straightens and walks toward the aircraft. The C-47's propellers blur into silver discs. The olive-drab fuselage vibrates under strain. The loadmaster signals urgently. 5 minutes. American airmen climb aboard first. Some glance at the German women with open hostility. One mutters, "This better not cost us fuel." Mercer hears it. He says nothing. Inside the cargo bay, canvas-webbed seats line the aluminum ribs of the fuselage. The smell of oil and cold metal fills the air. Light filters in through small circular windows. Anna hesitates at the ramp. "This goes to England?" she asks quietly. "For now," Mercer replies. And then, he doesn't answer, because he doesn't know. The loadmaster checks weight calculations scribbled in grease pencil. He frowns but nods once to the pilot. Acceptable. Barely. Outside, the eastern rumble grows louder. An American jeep races across the field toward the control tower. The driver jumps out, shouting to the British captain. Papers are thrust into his hands. Mercer catches only fragments carried by the wind. Soviet forward elements. Faster than expected, the captain looks toward the aircraft, then toward the horizon. His expression changes. He signals urgently. The loadmaster stiffens. "Sergeant, we're pushing it, now." Mercer ushers the 5 women up the ramp. The tall one stumbles. He catches her elbow instinctively. She flinches at the contact but does not pull away. Anna takes a seat opposite Mercer on the webbing. Her hands grip the straps so tightly her knuckles turn white. The engines roar higher. The ramp begins to lift. "Hold!" a voice shouts from outside. Everyone freezes. An American lieutenant sprints toward the aircraft, waving a signal flag. The pilot cuts throttle slightly. The lieutenant reaches the ramp, breathless. Orders from command: temporary suspension. Soviet liaison en route. All German personnel to remain for joint processing. Silence floods the cargo bay. Anna's face strains of color. Mercer feels heat rise behind his eyes. The engines idle, impatient. The wind howls through the open ramp. Mercer steps down onto the wet tarmac before the lieutenant can climb aboard. "What liaison?" Mercer demands over the engine noise. "Red Army Advance Unit," the lieutenant replies, breathless. "They've requested joint custody of all Luftwaffe personnel in this sector." Mercer stares at him. "That sector collapsed yesterday. Orders changed." Of course they did. In April 1945, maps changed by the hour. The C-47's propellers churned the air, throwing dust and paper across the runway. The pilot leans halfway out his window, shouting down. "We don't have the fuel margin to sit here all day." The lieutenant lowers his voice. "Sergeant, if Soviet armor rolls in while you're still on this strip, nobody's flying." Mercer glances toward the eastern horizon. The artillery rumble is no longer distant. It's closer now, distinct concussions that tremble faintly through the ground. Behind him, Anna stands inside the aircraft doorway. She doesn't step down. She watches, waiting for strangers to decide her fate. Mercer turns back to the lieutenant. "How long until the liaison arrives?" "Unknown." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got." A jeep skids to a stop near the control tower again. The British captain waves frantically at the aircraft, signaling delay. The pilot curses loudly. Inside the cargo bay, the American airmen shift uneasily. One removes his helmet and rubs his shaved head. We survived Stalag for this. Mercer hears it. He feels the same thought creeping in. Anna steps down the ramp despite the wind. She approaches slowly, stopping a few feet from Mercer. Her English is careful. If we stay, she asks, what happens? Mercer doesn't lie. I don't know. She nods once. That's enough. From the east, a sharper crack splits the air. Not artillery this time. Small arms. Somewhere beyond the tree line, fighting has begun. The lieutenant's eyes widen. They're closer than reported. The pilot throttles up again in warning. The engines scream, demanding decision. The British captain runs toward them now, coat flapping. You have 10 minutes at most, he shouts. Forward Soviet scouts reported 5 kilometers out. 5 kilometers. Less than 3 miles. Mercer calculates instinctively. Armor can cover that fast on open road. The lieutenant looks torn. If we take them without authorization, Mercer cuts him off. Then it becomes my responsibility. You'll answer for it. If there's anyone left to answer to. Silence. The engines roar like caged animals. The lieutenant stares at the approaching smoke plume, then back at Mercer. Finally, he steps aside. I didn't see anything, he mutters. Mercer doesn't waste the gift. He turns to Anna. Get inside. She hesitates only a heartbeat before climbing back up the ramp. The other 4 women scramble after her. The loadmaster slams the ramp lever. Metal groans as the door begins to rise. Outside, another burst of gunfire echoes closer. The C-47 shudders as it gathers speed. Inside the cargo bay, the metal ribs vibrate like a living thing. The web seats tremble. The air smells of fuel and cold sweat. Mercer braces a hand against the fuselage as the aircraft bounces over cracks in the ruined runway. He counts the seconds without meaning to. Too heavy? He feels it. The added weight. The drag of mud on tires. The hesitation in the engine's pitch. Across from him, Anna grips the canvas straps. Her lips move silently, prayer or memory. He cannot tell. The American airmen stare forward, rigid. No one speaks now. Outside, through a small round window, Mercer catches a glimpse of the tree line. Movement. Dark shapes between trunks. A flash of muzzle fire. Then the first bullets strike. Sharp metallic clangs echo along the fuselage. The sound is unmistakable, small arms fire hitting aluminum skin. Someone swears. The loadmaster drops low instinctively, scanning for penetration. Keep your heads down. The aircraft continues accelerating. Another burst of gunfire. This time closer. Dirt kicks up beside the runway in tight, angry spurts. Not random. Disciplined. Forward scouts. Mercer feels the tail lift slightly as speed builds. The engines howl at full power now. Twin Pratt and Whitney's straining beyond comfort. The pilot is holding nothing back, but the runway is short. Too short for hesitation. The aircraft jolts violently as a round punches through thin skin somewhere. Near the rear bulkhead, a woman screams. Mercer twists around. One of the younger girls clutches her arm. Blood seeps through field gray fabric. Not a fatal hit, but real. Very real. Anna presses her hand against the girl's wound, face pale but steady. It is nothing, she whispers in German. Outside, the runway markers blur. The C-47 rattles over a patch of broken concrete. For one sickening moment, the engines dip slightly in pitch. Too much weight. Mercer's stomach tightens. He's felt this before over Bremen, when flak shredded their left wing and the aircraft sagged. He looks toward the cockpit door. No turning back now. More impacts hammer the fuselage. A window cracks. Shards of safety glass scatter across the cargo bay. The aircraft reaches the end of the runway. Gross rushes toward them. The pilot pulls back. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. The wheels skim uneven ground beyond the concrete. The entire frame shudders violently. A collective breath holds inside the fuselage. Then, lift. Not clean, not graceful, but lift. The wheels leave earth. The C-47 claws upward, barely clearing a line of shattered hangars. One propeller spits a faint trail of smoke before stabilizing. Below them, the airfield shrinks fast. Mercer looks through the window again. On the edge of the field, armored vehicles emerge from the trees. Low silhouettes with red stars, painted on turrets. Too late. Inside the aircraft, the screaming has stopped. Only the roar of engines remains. Anna looks at Mercer across the narrow aisle. The left engine coughs again. Not loud, not dramatic, just wrong. Mercer hears it over the steady thunder of the Pratt and Whitney radials a brief stutter in rhythm, like a skipped heartbeat, the kind of sound airmen remember long after war ends. The aircraft climbs shallow and strained to shallow. The loadmaster pushes forward toward the cockpit, boots sliding slightly on the vibrating metal floor. He disappears through the narrow door. Inside the cargo bay, nobody speaks. The wounded girl's bleeding slows under Anna's firm pressure. Mercer tears a strip from an old field dressing in his pocket and hands it across. Anna nods once, wrapping it tight with surprising competence. "You did signals?" Mercer asks quietly. "Yes. Medical training." She shakes her head. "We learn it because no one else would." The plane banks slightly left. The damaged engine sputters again, this time followed by a faint shudder through the fuselage. A thin thread of smoke drifts past one of the circular windows. Mercer doesn't need confirmation. He knows what that means. Moments later, the loadmaster returns, face pale. He crouches beside Mercer. "Fuel line hit," he says low. "Pressure's unstable. Pilot's feathering mixture, trying to keep her alive." "How long?" The loadmaster hesitates. "If it holds, maybe to the coast. If, below them." The German countryside rolls past in patchwork fields and bomb-scarred roads. Columns of refugees crawl west in thin lines. Carts pulled by tired horses. War from above looks smaller, cleaner. Inside this metal shell, it feels anything but. One of the American airmen across from Mercer stares at the German women opally now. "We took fire for them." Mercer meets his eyes. "We took fire getting out." The airman doesn't answer. Another tremor runs through the aircraft. From the cockpit, a red warning light flickers briefly on the overhead panel. Anna notices it. Her voice is barely above the engine noise. "Are we falling?" "No," Mercer says. "We're flying." But the climb has stopped. They level out far lower than comfortable, barely 2,000 feet. Too low to glide far if the engine dies completely. The wounded girl winces as the aircraft hits light turbulence. Outside, clouds thicken into a gray ceiling. The loadmaster moves aft, checking for further damage. He runs his hand along riveted seams where bullet holes punch through. Cold air leaks faintly through patched metal. The left engine suddenly sputters harder, 3 sharp coughs. The propeller's rhythm falters. Mercer's pulse spikes. The pilot's voice crackles faintly through the open cockpit door. She's losing pressure. The aircraft dips slightly. Several passengers gasp. Anna closes her eyes for a moment, then opens them again, steady, controlled. Mercer locks eyes with her. If that engine quits entirely, they'll have minutes at best. Below, the North Sea coastline lies somewhere ahead beyond layers of cloud. Behind them, the eastern horizon burns faintly with artillery smoke. The left propeller slows. Not all at once. It begins as a wobble in rhythm, metal blades slicing air unevenly. Then the rotation drops further, the blur thinning into visible arcs. The engine gives one last violent cough and dies. Silence doesn't follow. The remaining right engine roars louder, straining to carry the full weight alone. The aircraft yaws hard to the left, nose pulling off course as torque fights control. Several men are thrown sideways against their straps. One of the German girls cries out. Mercer grips the webbing beside him as the C-47 shudders violently. He feels the drag instantly, the dead engine becoming an anchor in the sky. Through the cockpit door, he sees the pilot wrestling the yoke, boots stomping rudder pedals to counter the yaw. "Feather it," the co-pilot shouts. Outside, the left propeller slows further, windmilling uselessly before finally angling into feather position. The drag eases slightly, but not enough. They are too heavy. The nose dips. Altitude begins to bleed away, slow, steady, merciless. 2,000 feet becomes 1,800. 17. The loadmaster scrambles forward again. She won't hold at this weight. Everyone understands what that means. The American airman who had complained earlier stares at the German women. His jaw tightens. No one says the word, but it hangs there. "Wait." Mercer feels it like a physical presence pressing on his chest. The pilot's voice carries back, tight but controlled. "We can make the coast if we lose about 500 pounds. 500 pounds. That's men. Or equipment. Or." Mercer looks around the cargo bay. There is no excess cargo. No crates to toss. Only people. Anna understands. He sees it in her face. She rises slowly from her seat despite the turbulence. "How many?" she asks him quietly. He doesn't answer. "How many must leave?" She presses. The wounded girl shakes her head, eyes wide with terror. Mercer feels every heartbeat. He remembers Stalag Luft, the fences, the cold Baltic wind, the waiting. He remembers Anna once passing him a Red Cross parcel through a guarded table, her eyes never meeting his then. Enemies, now bound by gravity and fuel and failing machinery. The aircraft drops to 1,500 feet. Below them, a narrow strip of marshland cuts through the countryside, water glinting dully under gray sky. If they go down here, survival is uncertain. The pilot calls back again, voice strained. Decision now. Anna steps forward. I will go, she says simply. Mercer stares at her. There is no drama in her voice. Only acceptance. The aircraft shudders as another pocket of air hits them. 1,400 feet. The right engine screams at maximum output. The loadmaster looks to Mercer, not to the pilot. To him, because he brought them aboard. Mercer feels the weight of command he was never given. Anna takes a step toward the rear of the aircraft, toward the door, and Mercer moves to block her path. Mercer grips the frame of the cargo door as the aircraft shudders again. No, he says. It's not shouted, but it's final. Anna stands inches from him, steady despite the violent vibration underfoot. Her hair has come loose from beneath her field gray cap. Her eyes do not waver. If we stay, all die, she says. Not happening, Mercer answers. Behind them, the pilot's voice cuts through the fuselage. We are losing altitude. 1,300 feet. The right engine is screaming at a pitch no mechanic would approve of. The entire airframe trembles from strain. The loadmaster moves to the rear door, hands hovering near the release lever. He looks sick. The American airman who had complained earlier suddenly stands. He removes his Mae West life vest and drops it to the floor. I've flown worse, he mutters, though no one believes it. Mercer scans the cargo bay. Equipment. There is equipment. Emergency toolkits bolted near the bulkhead. Spare radio components. A crate of unused ammunition belts taken from the airfield. Wait. Strip it. Mercer orders. The loadmaster hesitates. That's flight gear. We won't need it if we're dead. The right engine coughs just once but enough to silence argument. The loadmaster lunges for the first crate, kicking it loose. Two airmen join him. Metal scrapes against metal as they drag spare parts toward the rear. Altitude drops to 1,200 feet. Outside, the marshland widens. Dark water veins cut through pale earth. Not survivable terrain. Anna grabs hold of a loose radio battery, struggling under its weight. Mercer sees her hands shaking, but she doesn't stop. One by one, they shove equipment toward the open rear hatch. The loadmaster pulls the lever. The cargo door cracks open. Wine explodes into the fuselage, roaring like an animal. Loose papers rip free and vanish into the sky. The first crate is pushed out. It disappears instantly. The aircraft lurches slightly upward. Not much, but enough to feel. More, the pilot shouts. They push the ammunition belts next. Heavy coils of brass and canvas tumble into open air. Another slight lift. 1,100 feet. Still too low. The loadmaster glances at Mercer. There's little left now, only personal gear. And one last metal tool chest bolted to the floor. Mercer grabs a wrench and smashes at the bolts. The steel gives slowly. Anna kneels beside him, helping pry the chest free. For a brief second their eyes meet. Not enemy, not ally. Just two human beings trying to outrun gravity. The final bolt snaps. They shove the heavy chest toward the open hatch together. It resists. The wind fights them. Then, with one final heave, it slides into the void. The aircraft jerks. The nose steadies. Altitude stops dropping. 1,000 feet. 900. Then, 900 holds. The right engine steadies into a tortured but consistent roar. The pilot's voice comes back, hoarse but alive. We're stabilizing. Barely. The cargo door slams shut. 900 feet. The altimeter needle trembles like it can't decide. Mercer keeps his eyes locked on it through the narrow cockpit doorway. The pilot's shoulders are rigid, hands wide around the yoke. The co-pilot monitors engine temperature, oil pressure, fuel flow numbers that now decide whether anyone lives. The right engine howls but holds. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the needle creeps upward. 950. 1,000. The entire cargo bay exhales at once, though no one says a word. They are climbing. Not strong, not safe, but climbing. Anna slides down the bulkhead and sits on the metal floor, back against riveted aluminum. Her hands are shaking now that action has stopped. The wounded girl beside her watches Mercer like he's something unfamiliar. Outside, the coastline appears through thinning cloud, dark water beyond pale sand. The North Sea, if they make that shoreline, their odds improve. The pilot calls back, voice still tight. We won't gain much altitude. We ride this as she is. Mercer nods, though the pilot can't see him. The aircraft shudders in mild turbulence as they cross over the final stretch of German land. Below, anti-aircraft positions sit abandoned, guns silent, crews gone. War dissolving in real time. One of the American airmen leans toward Mercer. You think command's going to hang us for this? Mercer watches the water draw closer beneath them. Only if we land. It earns the faintest ghost of a smile. Behind him, Anna speaks quietly. Why did you not let me jump? Mercer turns. Because you didn't deserve to. She studies him. Neither did you. The words hang between them, simple and unadorned. The wounded girl shifts. Are we safe now? She asks in broken English. Mercer looks out the window again. Below, waves crash in dull gray rhythm. Safe is a word he hasn't used in years. "We're over water," he says carefully. "That's something." The right engine suddenly fluctuates again, temperature edging high. The co-pilot adjusts mixture settings. The aircraft dips slightly before stabilizing once more. They are alone now. No gunfire, no artillery, just wind and strained machinery. Ahead, through haze, a darker shape emerges on the horizon. At first Mercer thinks it's cloud. Then he sees the straight line. A coastline. Different. England. The pilot's voice cracks over the noise. "If she keeps holding, we'll make Norfolk." The word spreads quietly through the cargo bay. Norfolk. Allied ground. Anna closes her eyes briefly, not in prayer this time, but in something closer to disbelief. The aircraft continues its shallow, fragile climb across open sea. Behind them, smoke from a dying continent fades into distance, but the engine temperature needle keeps rising, and there is still a long stretch of water beneath them. The English coastline grows larger through the haze. Flat fields, hedgerows, a thin silver river cutting inland. Norfolk. The right engine's temperature needle rides the red line now. The co-pilot keeps one hand on the mixture control, easing it back by instinct rather than regulation. They are no longer flying by the book. They are flying by survival. The C-47 trembles constantly, as if reminding everyone how close the margin still is. No one relaxes. Not yet. Mercer moves forward into the cockpit doorway. The pilot doesn't look at him. "Runway?" Mercer asks. "Coldishal." The pilot answers through clenched teeth. "Closest field with length. If she quits now, we ditch offshore." Ditching in the North Sea in April means minutes in freezing water. Mercer nods once and steps back. Behind him, Anna watches the coastline with an expression he cannot fully read. It is not joy. It is not relief. It is shock. The wounded girl whispers something in German. Anna answers softly, steadying her. The aircraft begins a slow, cautious descent. Below, RAF ground crews scatter as the damaged transport approaches, low and uneven. One engine feathered, fuselage scarred with bullet holes. The pilot lines up with the runway. Wind gusts from the left. The aircraft tilts slightly, corrected by rudder. The right engine sputters once more. Every muscle inside the fuselage tightens. "Hold together," the pilot mutters. The runway rises toward them. Too fast. Too real. The wheels slam down hard. The impact throws several passengers forward against their straps. The landing gear groans under an even load, but it holds. The aircraft swerves sharply as torque pulls left. The pilot fights it, boots stomping pedals. For one terrifying second, it feels like they will ground loop and tear the wing free. Then the aircraft straightens. The right engine finally gives out with a long mechanical sigh as they roll to a stop halfway. Down the runway, silence follows. Not the tense silence of fear, the stunned silence of survival. Mercer closes his eyes briefly. They made it. The rear cargo door is open from outside. Cold English air floods in. RAF personnel stare up at the strange mixture inside. American airmen, 5 German Luftwaffe auxiliaries, 1 wounded girl. Confusion flickers across British faces. Anna steps down slowly onto English soil. Her boots touch concrete as if testing reality. Mercer follows. For a moment they stand side by side beside the battered aircraft. No words, no ceremony. Behind them, Europe burns itself out. Ahead, a different reckoning waits. Interrogations, camps, paperwork, judgment. But not today. Today, they are simply alive. The last flight out of Nazi Europe has landed, and mercy, against every calculation, has survived the crossing.